What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We're here to preview Week 2 of the NFL season. It's going to be a fantastic episode. I already know, they already know, and of course you already know. But before we get into our Week 2 NFL preview, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm back home in Minnesota. Weather's nice. It's been crisp. It's been cool. It's been 60 degrees. Feels like football weather for the first time this year. I love it. Fall is the best season. Once you're out of school, there's no beating it.
I prefer the weather of summer, but I would rather have football than no football. So
football is nice. You can get some fits off. Like maybe you can't go swimming, but I don't really go swimming. Like there's nothing I like doing. You can hike. Hiking is better in fall. I guess you can fish in the summer.
The outfits. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Get some fits off. Watch some football. Fall clears summer once you're out of school. That's my hot take. I don't think it'll be that hot of a take though.
Yeah, maybe not. Matt, how you hanging?
I'm good. Yeah.
No updates for it?
No updates. No. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
How are you, Blaiden?
I'm good. I'm this close to buying a house, so very exciting.
What's the address?
Rich.
I am not rich. It is a 1,000 square foot, 2-bed, 2-bath house. There's nothing crazy. But hey, I just got the appraisal back, and I've already made basically $15,000 off my potential purchase. So we're cooking.
Wow, easy. Everyone should buy real estate.
Everyone should do this, man. You could make $15,000 just like that. So
yeah, what poor people are missing is that they should just buy a house and then they can make infinite money off the real estate appreciation.
No, I'm
very simple.
I'm very fortunate to not have college debt and shit like that. So
yes,
it makes it a lot easier.
Anyway,
you want to talk about some football?
Let's do it. What have we got this week?
So last week we kind of went game by game and did our, most interesting versus least interesting. But I think today we're doing things a little bit different. We're going to, of course, talk about, the games we think are the most exciting. But I think we also want to hit the biggest QBs to watch this week, the biggest rookies to watch. There were some teams that underperformed last week. We'll hit some bounce backs. We'll talk about teams that are under a lot of pressure, and then we'll do some upsets. And then, of course, we'll do the stay hot locks. But the most exciting teams at the top here, or actually, Theo, we wanted to talk about the Monday night game. You wanted to talk about Allen, right?
Yeah. There's one more game that we didn't get to talk about on Sunday night, and that was the most interesting game of the week, and what will go down as certainly one of the more interesting games of the entire 2023 season.
Oh, yeah.
Monday night, Week 1, Jets versus Bills. Before we talk about the Rodgers injury, I want to talk about Allen. We rated him as QB2 when we did our quarterback rankings this offseason. Pretty unanimously. How are we feeling about that this morning?
I think as the season goes on, he will stop, basically. That's my gut check. It'd be one thing if he was always like this, or if he was he couldn't make the right decision. He can. It's just he gets so keyed up to try to push the ball down the field that it kills him against a great defense like this. But we've seen him at times be incredibly surgical. That's easily within him. It's not like he's panicking and pushing the ball down the field. It's like he's just making the active decision. And in some games it's wrong, especially against a defense as good as the Jets. He seemed really pissed about it, and the post-game presser.
He seemed like someone who's been in trouble before. That was my reaction to his post-game comments. I'm like, this guy, he's like, I'm so stupid, I'm so dumb. Like, I ruined it for the whole team.
It's like he gets in like the mindset of like he's got to get it all in one play, and he just doesn't. And he easily has the ability to march down the field. I mean, when it came time to go and get that field goal, it was like boom, 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 no question. Like easily. It wasn't any doubt that he was going to be able to push the ball down the field against a Jets defense that is one of, if not the best in the NFL, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
He just has to cut it out. It's really as simple as that. It's and you have somebody coming up.
No, go ahead, Matt.
I'm just saying, like, you'd see somebody come open underneath and he's like, I'm throwing it double coverage anyway. It's like, man, just stop.
Yeah.
There was an awesome comedic moment. Go ahead, Blaiden. I'm sorry. We're talking over each other.
I thought on the last drive before they go to overtime, he did show that ability to be surgical because him and Diggs were kind of right on key. So like we saw it in this game, it just took until the last drive going into overtime. And then they folded immediately when they got the ball in overtime.
There was an awesome moment. It was the first interception. He rolls out. First of all, it looked like he could pick up the first down on the ground. I get that there was a defender in his way, but Josh Allen has a tendency to make defenders in his way miss. Yeah. But he chooses to launch it down the field. The camera pans past a guy with vertical separation, and you're like, oh, here it is, the classic Allen deep shot, like touchdown. And then the camera keeps panning. And then you see the guy in double coverage and it gets picked. And there was like one open option, second open option. And oh no, he chose the wrong one. I think people tend to overrate turnovers a little bit, but obviously in Allen's case, this was an extremely winnable game if he could just keep it under control. And really just like he could have QB sneaked it probably every play and like they could have won this game. Like just don't. You didn't need explosive plays to beat Zach Wilson. You just needed like control of the football and field position. And yeah, it's unacceptable for him to lose his mind in that game. But then after the fact, I thought you saw a lot of overreaction because Allen is prone to these dumb decisions, and people are talking about since he entered the league, he has so many turnovers. But it's like he's also led a bunch of the top offenses. And at the end of the day, this guy is prone to games like this. But I think by the end of the year, the Bills will probably still be a top offense under his leadership because of the way he plays. And you got to worry about some stinkers. But I'm not. We all knew that this was in Allen's range of outcomes. You know, like he's always going to have a couple of these per season. It's one game against a really tough defense. He's probably going to go in and kick the next team's ass. If he strings a couple bad performances in a row together, then we can really be concerned. But it doesn't fly in the playoffs, and that's the problem, really. Like that to me is the biggest problem. Is like it's not a 7-game series. You can't lose a game and bounce back and just be better 4 out of the 7 times. Like. You got to take care of the football better in the playoffs. Right. But he has pretty good numbers in the playoffs overall so far in his career. Like better than some quarterbacks.
What quarterbacks in the NFL right now are consistently good in the playoffs through like a 4-game stretch outside of Mahomes?
None.
Outside of Mahomes, no one. I mean, Rodgers.
Hurts, I guess. But
Hurts, yeah. But his game against, I don't know if they would say that it is because maybe that Bucs game weighs him down a little bit statistically, but obviously last year he played pretty well.
Right. So
although the 49ers game, he struggled a little bit last year in the NFC Championship game. They were lucky that Purdy got hurt. So yeah, it's pretty tough to move him too far down the rankings. If you really just focus on interceptions, you won't like Allen, but you got to focus on everything else he brings to the table. And at the end of the day, I think he has the least amount of help of any of the other top quarterbacks, but he puts forward better offensive results than all of them but Mahomes. I think
that's a pretty valid claim. And also, if we're going to sit here and dissect the quality of play of top quarterbacks after week 1, how many of them outplayed Josh Allen this week? Joe Burrow had 82 yards.
Mahomes had a spotty game as well.
There were plenty of stinkers. It's week 1. If you want to overreact to that and be like, what if this guy's actually not any good? Go for it, I guess.
Right.
But he will be. I do want to talk about the Aaron Rodgers injury.
I couldn't believe what I was watching.
What a heartbreaker, man. I feel horrible for him.
It's tragic.
I think go ahead.
I don't know if funniest sports injury is the right word, because it's not good for the league, and I wanted to see Rodgers on the Jets. But there is just something deeply... There's something a little amusing about Hackett being his friend, and Cobb and Lazard were out there in these big moments. And there was this whole hype train all off season, and he came in carrying the build up for it to end that quickly was absurd. There was something, it was so absurd, and absurdity is funny. Like that's kind of the word I'm looking for. I was watching Cobb line up. They're trying to put together like a game-winning drive. And it's like, you guys got Randall Cobb out there. Why? Like, what is he thinking right now? You know, like, I'm a wide receiver 3 on an offense with Zach Wilson. Like, that is just so crazy for it to end that quickly in that fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? Oh my God, you know, it's just wild, and it sucks because I think the Jets are so talented. Like, Breece Hall came back. He looks awesome, man.
Right.
He looks like he's picking up right where he left off. And Garrett Wilson, despite it all, oh my God, the catch he had was just completely nuts. And my feeling is that their season's just cooked. They can make the playoffs probably, but I mean, Wilson was not any different than he's been. He was, and people were, whoa, no, dude, no.
He was really bad.
I cannot believe the support that Zach Wilson still gets. Like, TikTok is an unserious platform, because I saw a slideshow that was like Burrow's villain arc, Mahomes' villain arc, and then like a picture of Zach Wilson looking intimidating. It's like, come on, guys, let's all grow up here. I get that you're 14 years old.
Can Zach Wilson look intimidating? This is the real question.
No,
I don't know.
And he had maybe 2 real completions, and they were just scared to death to try anything other than like runs and screens.
Oh my God!
I mean, it's damn near like a Navy offense or something with the amount that they were keeping it in the short game.
Yeah,
I don't
understand the faith that Saleh has in him. They're like, Zach's our guy.
Yeah, well, he's who we're rolling with. Well, no, dude. The difference between him and like a Dalton or a Brissett is huge, and I just can't stand to watch him just not be able to run a real offense at all. Not even just be limited, but they're now the most limited offense in the entire NFL, basically.
Yeah, the fact that they could not on the drive where they kicked that field goal to put them up 16-13. I'm like, did they just run the ball that entire drive? Like, I don't know if they attempted one legitimate pass, especially they got down like past the 50, and they were lining up Garrett Wilson one-on-one, and they just like would not.
No, they did not. They did not throw a pass.
Yeah,
8 plays, 15 yards.
Like, what are we talking about here? It's completely absurd.
I like the idea of adding Dalton, and I obviously don't know what the trade price would be, but I'm sure that they could make one. Like, Dalton can't be untouchable in Carolina. Bryce is entrenched as the starter. I get that he would have to learn the offense quickly, but he's a backup. Like, his whole job is or his whole appeal is learn offenses quickly. That's the job of a backup quarterback. That's what you have to be able to do. He was someone that was really accurate underneath, throwing short routes. He was getting rid of the ball quickly last year. Led an offense that finished 19th in passing EPA the weeks he was starter. Like, 19th could do it with this defense.
Yeah,
and that could get you to make some noise as long as it's not 32nd, which is all that Zach Wilson has ever been in every metric.
Well, the question is it worth trying to salvage any like substance of this season when like is anyone's job on the line if the Jets
it's worth salvaging the season. Yeah. We're week 1 and you just got what I hate to say this, but it like could only be described as a miracle win, basically. I mean, you had, how many points do you think the Jets had off of non-turnovers, like honest to God drives that weren't off turnovers?
3.
0. None. The only 6. The punt return for a touchdown. It was 0.
Yes,
Granted, one of those was like a real 50-yard drive, but even that was like a really short pass to Lazard that went far and then some runs and that's it. They could not, like, they can't move the ball, man. Outside of that, it'd be like Breece Hall, 80-yard run. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to kick a field goal, you know? And I know the Bills' defense is good, but you just can't be this limited. It's just going to kill you.
My even thought is just like, if you brought in, like, the point of bringing in Rodgers was to win a Super Bowl, right? And do you think you could, I don't think you can bring in anyone else that would obviously replace that. And like, you're not like just selling the season, but it's just like, maybe they do feel like they could just roll with Zach Wilson. It's like, well, what if it's like, what
no.
Is it significantly different of an outcome for like our end of year projection? Like
if you stick with Wilson, you're done. Maybe you can get to the playoffs. Maybe you can even win a game in the wild card on like some crazy defensive stuff. But if you go with if you go with Dalton, all of a sudden the absolutely insane defensive Super Bowl win is now in play. It would take a lot, but it's in play. It's been done before.
I guess it would take an insane amount.
No. So you wouldn't trade. You wouldn't trade a 4th round pick for Andy Dalton, and you would just throw away the season entirely. That would be your play. No way. Not even necessarily Dalton. Anybody.
I think they're stuck in a bad mentality. It's like, well, Zach is the backup. This is his job. He's going to do his job. And I get that from like a human perspective. Like they kept Zach Wilson around. I don't think that's a terrible thing. I mean, he had no trade value and I guess he can sit on the bench, you know, and learn from Rodgers and you don't have to cut him. But under no circumstances does he have to be your starter this year. I truly would rather have Matt Ryan, like anyone but Zach. Zach, who has been worse than Zach Wilson?
I don't know if I'd rather have Matt Ryan.
No one has been worse. 0 players have been worse than Zach Wilson.
Rather
Tyler Huntley has been better. Everyone has been better. Like, you are literally rolling with someone who is proven to be the worst option at quarterback, basically in the league. He came in from BYU. He could not operate an offense. Like, BYU was too open. He had no pressure ever. He could throw it up, and Dax Milne would come down with it. No matter what happened, it could be contested. It didn't matter. He came into the league. He couldn't do any of that, and it all fell apart. And then this week it fell apart. He threw it directly to the defense. Yeah. Like directly to the defense. There was
easiest
no way
interception Matt Milano will ever have. Yeah.
Yes. So it's like he did nothing to inspire anything other than, well, he's still the same guy he has been with his last performance. Dalton, again, at least he piloted an average offense last year. He's done it before that as well. Like, why would Zach be able to do that?
It's not about whether or not Zach could do that. For me, it's just, I don't know if it's like, if you could make the playoffs with Zach Wilson, if you believe that you can make the playoffs with Zach Wilson, if Saleh believes that, then to him, it doesn't make a lot of sense to go and get someone else that could. They're just
but why would you believe you can make the playoffs with Zach Wilson?
Well, that's the real question.
Yeah, it is. Well, there is no answer.
And there's
no reason to believe that. They had a great defense in Zach Wilson last year.
Yeah.
And they
almost made the playoffs.
No. Okay, that's great. we're in a Super Bowl window here. Like, again, add somebody, and they're not going to. And like Blaiden, what you're saying is what is actually going to go down, it sounds like. But I just couldn't disagree more with the lack of aggressiveness adding a quarterback. Because, I mean, you don't have to trade any high picks, and I don't know if they have any high picks to do it. But, like, certainly there's an option that has given above the basement of quarterback play. Like, Wentz has piloted better offenses than Zach Wilson.
Easily.
Yeah.
Like, Wentz has proven more. Anyone has proven more.
I mean, how many real honest to God throws did Zach Wilson make in that entire game? Like,
they were calling it out on the broadcast. They were like, that's his second throw past the sticks tonight that he's hit. Everything else has been a disaster. I'm paraphrasing Troy Aikman there. There's no offense he can run. He's not athletic enough. Like, he's not built enough to be Anthony Richardson and run zone read, or you can't bring in like any Greg Roman philosophies and Kaepernick your way to a good offense with his legs while your defense is lights out. There's no way that you can just short pass it like dink and dunk down the field. Like, he can't do anything right. Like, yeah. I know it sounds harsh, but he has not shown the ability to pilot any type of offense. He hasn't shown the skill set.
Maybe Robert Saleh is just like bluffing.
I saw Zach Wilson scramble back about 50 yards to avoid a sack in that last game. Yeah. I thought for sure he was going to get tackled out of field goal range.
I'm like, but on the bright side, he didn't turn his back to the defense.
Yeah, I mean, I get on the bright side, he didn't get sacked and he was actually able to escape and throw it away. But like, still, it's like, why are you even doing that, dude? Just a ticking time bomb, a disaster waiting to happen. Like, that is Zach Wilson at quarterback. I'd rather just take guaranteed bad, like normal levels of bad, though.
Well, here's the real question. Do you think Rodgers comes back next year? Because I do think that might play into what their philosophy is.
I think so. He'll be healthy. I mean, come next season, and he signed a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
So, like, he'll be under contract and he'll be healthy. I think that he'll give it one more shot, but I don't know, obviously. I mean
it's definitely something worth considering retirement over. Yeah, he's 40 years old. You just tore your Achilles. It's like the worst injury you can possibly have in sports.
I think it's about a 50-50 shot. Either it happens or it doesn't. There's no, I mean, I have no idea what his mentality is.
I like the people on Twitter who are like, I came back from an Achilles when I was 40.
Kyle Brandt.
That was awesome.
I tore my Achilles. I think Rodgers will be back. Bro.
I should say not quite the same, but I broke my foot when I was 19 and I'm fine now. So,
hey, my mom tore her Achilles years ago. She's still not fine from it. So, and that's my mom.
Kyle Brandt, answer. We want answers. I guess he's just built differently than your mom, I guess.
Who does Rodgers comp more to, Kyle Brandt or Blaiden's mom? That's the question.
This is the question.
But I don't think Rodgers' potential comeback should factor into the Jets giving this season a real shot by spending like a high day 3 pick on a real quarterback.
Yeah, they got to bring someone in and maybe Zach can like start to begin with while they're on the bench. If it's Matt Ryan, if it's Carson Wentz, if it's, Phillip Rivers, if it's Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton to me is definitely their best option if you can get him out of Carolina. Matt, name your price?
For Andy Dalton, 2 first. However, hear me. Let's say the Jets are bad this year. Let's say they win 7-8 games, something like that, like 16th pick. Okay. They keep Wilson. They'll be somewhere around there, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of quarterbacks in this next draft class. Maybe they say the new play is to try to Trey Lance it and move way, way up and get a guy and have him sit behind Rodgers for a year, see what you got in Rodgers, and then roll with him. That if I was the Jets, that would be my immediate first thought game plan, and they'll actually have their first because it won't convey to the Packers.
Well, if you were who on the Jets? Maybe the owner. But it's like, yeah, maybe. I don't think tanking is in their mind. I think it's just a delusional faith in like the guy they drafted still.
No,
Well,
I don't think they're
it's our
tanking. I'm just
quarterback
saying
got
for the
hurt. What do you
future,
want us
maybe
to
that's
do?
their quarterback. I don't think that has any weight on what they do at quarterback right now. That's not what I mean. I just think like if you're thinking about how you progress at quarterback with Zach Wilson and a 40-year-old quarterback with a torn Achilles, my first thought would be get aggressive and go for the big rookie because the rest of the team is in place enough so where that should be your move. And if you whiff on that, okay. But I think that has a higher ceiling than a lot of your other options, which would be like, who even knows at this point? Maybe they'll go get Stafford in the offseason, but that would be another older quarterback. I think they still want to give Rodgers a shot no matter what. And if you draft the guy, even if you don't trade up to get him, you still have the potential to do that. It's pretty far in the future, though.
Would you trust Joe Douglas to draft another quarterback after what happened the first time?
Well, if you're the general manager or the owner, I mean, your mindset can't be, I don't think my GM can draft good players, because if that's the case, or if you're a GM and you're like, well, I just can't draft good guys, then okay, well, give up, then sell the team.
That's the thing is like every other move has been pretty damn good from Joe Douglas, so you've just got to. I don't know if drafting Zach Wilson is a fireable offense. It totally is, but everything else is a hireable offense.
Okay.
So it would be very interesting to see the direction he would go if he were to select another franchise quarterback, especially if they traded up for number one. Would they draft Caleb Williams, the guy who runs around and creates out of structure and gets all the Mahomes comparison like Zach Wilson did? Or would they look at someone like Drake May and say, that's someone that's an archetype that we haven't tried out yet? That would be a really interesting conversation, but we're talking very far in the future. I think they need to add a guy and roll with anybody else but Zach Wilson. And I think the Bills will end up being fine. And I think Josh Allen will string together some pretty good performances in the weeks to come. And I still think that he can be an MVP candidate. I've seen Rodgers stink it up week one against the Saints and win MVP and the Packers be the 1 seed. Like it's not the rarest thing in the world for good teams to come out and lay an egg. So now, I'm not too concerned about the Bills, but I'm very concerned about, obviously, New York. If Zach Wilson is
they
really
trade for Dorian Thompson-Robinson? This is the question that everyone is asking.
Yeah, I would take that over rolling with Wilson.
I would too. At least you don't know what DTR is.
No, you know.
You know that he's a good preseason quarterback. So is Kenny Pickett.
Hey, I'm not complaining.
No, you shouldn't complain. But DTR would be, an interest. I'd call about just about everybody.
Yeah.
But
I guess that's fair.
Dalton would be number one on my list. I think that he fits that kind of West Coast type of system that Rodgers brought in Hackett to run. And that would be my number one preference. And I'd try to get him out of Carolina. But
we just spent a half hour recapping Monday Night Football. Let's preview week 2, starting with the most exciting games coming into this week.
With Underdog Fantasy, you can bet all kinds of things and all kinds of sports. They've got Pick'em. They've got pools. I've talked about it on here before, and it's still true. You can still do a fantasy draft. You can still enter pools. You can still read the news all on one app, the Underdog Fantasy app. And with the code Stay Hot, they will double your first deposit, which means if you put in, you can make up any number your brain can comprehend between 0 and 100. You could put in 3355, and that would turn into 6710. Matt, you have a question?
Could I put in 4260?
You could put in 4260, Matt. You absolutely could. It would turn into 85 to 20, I think. But you can't put in more than 100. You can't put in $1 million. They won't give you an extra $1 million. There's a limit, and it is $100. But if it's under 100, any number you can think of that's not negative, they will double it. You cannot withdraw money and they won't double that, which is good because that would be messed up. So if you want to bet on football, baseball, soccer, if it's going on, I'm sure they've got that download the Underdog Fantasy app and use code STAYHOT, and they will double your first deposit. Although there are some restrictions on that. You can't have any imaginary numbers, no negatives, and nothing over 100.
I have 2 potential ones listed down, so I'll just see if you guys name them before. Matt, what do you think is the most exciting game this week?
Most exciting? Yeah. Seahawks Lions.
Ooh, okay.
It's kind of a revenge game.
The Lions famously lost this one like 42-41, something around there, maybe 43-42. I don't remember the exact number. But it's sort of a proof of concept for the Lions where, okay, the defense should be better this year. Well, here's a team that our defense played horrible against. The Seahawks weren't that great offensively week 1, so it's doable. What do you got? Because if it's another 40-point game for the Seahawks, if it's 30 plus, it's like, man, damn, are we better? And then the flip side of that is that it probably should be a high-scoring game regardless, which is exciting. And if you're the Seahawks, you're risking starting 0-2, which we know is a bad position to be because you want to win games and you have to win games to make the playoffs. But it would be a really rough start for a team that I think most people kind of shoot into the wild card in the NFC. I mean, I don't think I know anybody who had the Seahawks missing. Not that people are like, oh, they're going to win 13 games, but
yeah,
we all did, and I don't think any of us had a second thought about
NFC
it.
wildcard teams were pretty.
It was like
most people
Cowboys
were pretty much in
and
alignment.
Seahawks, and then who else? That was the question you were asking yourself.
Right.
You get your 7th team from anywhere. And the Seahawks are missing Charles Cross and Abe Lucas.
Yeah.
It's really scary hours for them. They had such a hyped up by us, so I don't want to point the finger anywhere else. But, the secondary was so young and exciting, and for them to get torched like that week 1, pretty rough. The defensive line couldn't do anything. Like, the defense has to show something. The Chiefs were able to slow the Lions down last week. They were able to be stout up front even without Chris Jones. They were able to not completely take away the play action pass, but stuff the run enough that they couldn't just spam it over and over and over again. The Seahawks have got to do the same thing. It'll be a test for Bobby Wagner. They've got to find some way to hide him as best as good as possible. So he's not carrying any crossers across the field. And it's tough to play football like that when that is your Mike linebacker and you're playing the Lions. I think it's an extremely tall task for the Seahawks to roll in there without their top tackles and beat Detroit after what I saw week 1. And that opens up a whole can of worms because, yeah, you're right, Matt. 0-2, you don't see many teams miss the playoffs or make the playoffs when they start 0-2. So I think the Seahawks could obviously make the playoffs even if they lose this game. It's in the realm of possibility. But, yeah, it's going to feel like a playoff game. And that's the NFL. Week 2.
I mean, as you get later into the season, too, the schedule does not really let up. This is kind of the time for them to get out and stake their claim before it's AFC North and NFC East time, which are both on their schedules. I mean, you got a stretch here where it's Niners, Cowboys, Niners, Eagles. That's brutal. And you don't want to be going into those being like, we need to be 3-1. Because it's maybe just not realistic for you to do that. Now, granted, maybe you only need to be 500 in the NFC to make the wild card. 9-8 maybe could get it done this year. We'll see how everything plays out, but it's tough. Yeah, so that's my most exciting game for the week. And also, the Lions offense has some questions about how much they were pushing the ball down the field and whether or not their weapons are good enough. And this should be a good test of that, too. So I think there's a lot of questions that are going to be answered in this game. I think there are 2 teams that are going to be in the playoffs, and I think it should be higher scoring. So that's why it's my most exciting.
This would be a good opportunity to get Gibbs really going. you could potentially match him up with Bobby Wagner.
Need to see that one time.
To see Bobby
Ben
Wagner
Johnson,
trying.
please, one time, get it schemed up. Pete Carroll's not letting that happen, man. They're seeing Gibbs split out wide, and they're like, Brooks, get over there.
They're doing their immediate timeout. It's like, stop.
Timeout.
No.
Timeout. Safety rotate down. They can take the shot.
Right.
They can take the shot to whoever, like Josh Reynolds. We'll let Josh Reynolds beat us, but
Seahawks going cover 0 the whole game against Detroit.
Yeah, the second level defense and the first level defense for the Seahawks is questionable. That's pretty tough against a Lions team whose strength is weapons underneath and their offensive line. So yeah. I think Detroit is going to win.
I would also take Detroit.
I would have to agree.
I think the most exciting game, Matt, you're trying too hard to be different with Detroit Seahawks, because the most interesting game is Kansas City versus Jacksonville.
That's you guys didn't pick the game that I have. Okay.
Oh my gosh, you guys!
I agree that it'll be an interesting game, but I put that in a different category. So I tried not to reuse I tried not to reuse teams.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't mean it, but mine would be Kansas City versus Jacksonville, two powerhouses in the AFC. I think Kansas City has a real chance to drop this one and go 0-2. Now, I really think they'll make the playoffs, even if they go 0-2, but Chris Jones is back. Yeah. Looks like Travis Kelce will be back. I think Lawrence, we talked about what quarterbacks looked elite week 1. Like, Lawrence made some throws that were just crazy. The movement out of structure, the accuracy out of structure, the aggressiveness. It wasn't a great game statistically, it seems like, or efficiency wise, like the metrics didn't like it, but that was an elite game. I don't care. Like, he versus Mahomes is must watch television. And there's a bunch of those things in the AFC. Everybody tries to anoint someone versus Mahomes as the next Brady versus Manning, whether that be Lamar or Burrow or Allen. I've seen it all hyped up, but Lawrence is another challenger for that QB2 title. And man, his connection with Ridley looked so dangerous week 1. I mean, the routes were electric. He was just leaving people in the dust. And you've got someone who is okay with holding the ball a little bit longer in Trevor Lawrence. And that matches up really well because Calvin Ridley is willing to run routes that take a little bit longer than other receivers. Like, they just take a bit longer to set up. He cuts a little bit more severely inside, which takes a little bit of time before you break it out. But you've got a quarterback who's very willing to hold it that extra second, to shift that extra foot and like find that. It is very, very, very hard to defend. So I think that's going to be big offense for Jacksonville against Kansas City's corners. I think it's going to be big offense for Jacksonville from anybody's corners. And then I think with Chris Jones, we'll see how he does versus the run. He can be a bit aggressive. Teams have taken advantage of him in that department, like trapping him, like getting him to go upfield and then slamming him from the side. It's a really diverse running game for Jacksonville. Like, I'm sure that he'll see a lot of that in his first game back. So I think there's a chance that the rushing defense looks a little bit worse this week with Chris Jones than last week. As good as Chris Jones is, I think that's in the realm of possibility. A little bit of Ewing theory there for the defensive line without him. But, can Mahomes get back on track with Kelce? Because it was a kind of a messy game. Like, will he be able to answer back? Because the Jaguars offense looks like it could be, they put up 31. It could be one of the better ones in the sport. So
the Colts defense.
Yeah. They put up a lot of points on the Colts. Like, who do the Colts have at corner?
Right.
Although Zaire, 44 for the Colts. I believe that's Franklin went crazy in that game. It doesn't matter. It'll come down to pass rush for Chris Jones. The interior of the Jaguars offensive line is pretty weak. Spags will be happy to have him back, send a bunch of simulated pressures. A weak offensive line, you're going to want to generate one-on-ones. Like, whatever Chris Jones however he can be exploited in the running game, he can make up for it in the passing game. So excited to have him back, and he has an opportunity to put up a lot of numbers. He has a lot of ground to make up monetarily because he got fined so much money this offseason. He's got to hit his incentives. So projecting a big pass rushing game from him. But can the Jaguars be more well-rounded than the Chiefs?
Speaking of incentives, that Jet safety already got his $250,000 bonus.
Right,
he had to
I
get
saw
3
that.
picks to get $250,000, and he got them all in one game.
Got to send Josh about $25K.
I was going to say the same thing.
buy bro a truck or something.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, two high-powered offenses. I think Ridley and Lawrence are must-watch TV, and then the Mahomes bounce-back agenda.
Yeah.
All things to watch.
So you both went with kind of high-powered offense versus high-powered offense. I went with Patriots versus Dolphins. Elite defense versus elite offense. And I'm really excited to see Gonzalez against, Tyreek or Waddle. I thought he looked really good against Devontae and AJ Brown. Like a first showing, he was sticking it. He was right there with him the whole way, and it's kind of what we expected. He's a very fluid athlete. So to be matched up against now 2 more elite receivers. I mean, this is a tough first 2 games for the Patriots. And this AFC East is probably going to come down to the wire. But I think this could be a real battle between one of the top groups in the league on both sides.
It'll be interesting to see how Belichick plays this.
Yeah.
Because last week they went with a ton of single high stuff, and the Eagles have great receivers. They have two top guys, and they went single high. They manned up a good bunch. They threw some different things in there, but they manned up a decent amount and whatnot. Do you want to do that with Miami and with the guys that they have? Because maybe your argument would be, we'll be fine. We think we'll be okay because we don't think Tua can hit those deep outside shots, except did last week. So are you really going to risk it all again on like single high? And if we get beat around, on the outside, we'll just hope that Tua underthrows it and we can make a play? I don't know.
I think
so. I think they will do that again.
That's just Belichick's identity, I feel like, at this point.
Single high is middle of the field closed, and I think that's ultimately what you want to do against this team. I think that if you can deal with the weirdness of the offense, so they're so fast that Tyreek Hill can go in motion and then run a post route out of the backfield. Usually, you don't have time to do that, but with Tyreek, you can do it. There's the switch releases down the field, which we talk about a little bit on my new show, Wednesday Night Football. We talk a little bit about the Dolphins, and on that we mentioned the switch releases down the field. So usually that happens at the line of scrimmage. 2 guys cross over each other, and it's hard to pass that off. The Dolphins will do that 10 yards away. It's difficult to defend. So you've got to be killer with the zone coverages. I don't think that you can run with these guys, unless you're jamming them at the line of scrimmage and really disrupting the timing before they can get down the field. Then maybe you can. So you expect to see a little bit of that. But at the end of the day, it's close the middle of the field, get a ton of depth with your linebackers, and they've got the freaks to do it. They've got safeties playing linebacker. They got guys with real ball skills that they can put in the middle of the defense, be solid against the run, but also when they drop back, can actually match up with Tyreek Hill and Waddle and things like that. Tua week 1 of last year did a pretty good job against the Patriots, but he was hurt for the next meeting, so he didn't get to see how Belichick adjusted. I agree, Blaiden. That offense versus that defense is going to be must-see TV.
It's going to be crazy. And the Patriots did a good job against the Eagles.
They kicked the Eagles' teeth in. Their defensive line really got after it. and the Dolphins
Jalen
don't
Hurts
have
took a lot of big hits, which is something you don't want Tua to do.
No.
They held the Eagles offense. I know it was under 20. I don't know the exact, because I know, what was it?
I think they ended with 25, so they must have scored 18 points of offense.
Because Slay had the pick 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was 18. But
yeah,
that's holding the Eagles to 18 is
not easy.
Really, they were a top 2, top 3 offense last year. So hard to do better than that. So yeah, I think that'll be a really exciting game to watch.
Yeah, Tua was not under pressure much week 1 at all. Like the middle of the Chargers defensive line was getting no push. Khalil Mack was pretty much invisible all day. Joey Bosa didn't have his most disruptive performance either. So Tua went off, and when he was under pressure, he was able to roll out and hit basically as many throws on the run out of the pocket as he did all of last year. So like, can he repeat that? I think the Patriots are going to say, do it again, and if Tua beats him down the field, like the Chargers got beat last week, I think that you're going to be able to live with that if you're a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And if Tua beats it every week, then he's the best quarterback in the league. Like that's really the only thing he has left to conquer, because obviously everything in the structure of that offense has always been great with him, or it was great last year, not always. But
I think you'll be looking to see how the Dolphins adjust going from an awful defense to one of the best in the league.
They also probably feel like their corners are just like gonna do better than what the Chargers did. And that it's just not going to be that level of disaster. And maybe what the Chargers were trying to do wasn't as horrible as the players made it seem. And just a mix of
I
things.
agree with that. I think Staley's game plan, like, what can you do when JC Jackson shoves the guy in the back for no reason and they kick a field goal and they win the game by 2? Like, like you're just screwed if that happens, like that's not his fault. he made a coverage call that closed the middle of the field and forced Tua to step up on the move and throw it to Tyreek Hill down the sideline. Like, that's not Staley's fault that it got completed, like that's, I think, the throw that you live with if you're a defensive coordinator Tua making. So the Patriots have much better players than the Chargers do. And
on defense, at least. But
they were a good defense last year, and Tua did a good job against them. So I don't know. I'll say I'll be a Dolphins hater one more time. I'm sure Dolphins fans can't be too mad at me because
it's tough because the Patriots offense is not all that great.
Like, it was great last week, though.
You get Mac Jones drives where it's like, honestly, they look pretty efficient. They can't. Is it? Bourne.
Is the Dolphins defense good?
Wasn't last week.
It was bad last week.
We're gonna have to have a conversation about Bradley Chubb soon. Bradley Chubb has not been the player that they traded for.
No.
Okay. What are you gonna do?
And that's all I'll say.
Legacy
I don't know.
Game.
Got to play him. He's got to contribute, though. He's got to contribute.
So maybe the Patriots offense can, because if they can look pretty good against the Eagles defense, which again that's a good group, you put up 20. So if you can look pretty good against that, and your defense can play as well as it did last week, you have a pretty good shot to win this. I might take the Patriots too. I don't. It's not totally unreasonable.
You know what? Never mind. The Dolphins made me look stupid last year. I'm picking the Dolphins. Look, Tyreek and Waddle and Tua improving and the offensive line looking good last year. I can't. I know that I said it, but I'm not going to be.
Let's see. Tua faces more pressure. The corners are locking down.
I can see the Patriots winning. I think it's going to be a great
Tyreek
game.
And Waddle. I think it'll be a great game. Fantastic game.
The Dolphins came out and they punched me in the mouth personally. So I've got to...
out of respect.
Out of respect for that performance, I'll say that they're legit good and they won't get beat by the Patriots. How about that? I'll say
there's
that
a world where the Patriots hold the Dolphins offense and they exploit the Dolphins defense, And maybe this is like 24-3 Browns versus Bengals all over again. Who knows?
Maybe it is. But there's also a world where they also can't run with Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
No matter how many linebacker safety hybrids they put out there.
Hey, respect Kyle Duggar.
Kyle Duggar will be down in the box. It's Jabril Peppers up top that I'm worried about. Well, Duggar will be.
All right. Well, those are our most exciting games. Or Matt, are you going to take the Patriots or the Dolphins?
That's a tough one. You know, my upset pick this week was the Patriots, but I don't want to let Theo be different. So you have to weigh these, and I'll go with the Patriots.
All right. I think it's a pretty good upset pick because the Dolphins are favored in that one. Before we get into the next topic, I have to ask, do you ever get stressed buying tickets to your favorite events, whether that be sporting events or concerts or comedy shows? It can be stressful trying to plan months in advance to get tickets to see your favorite acts. But with Game Time, that becomes super easy. I know a lot of people are just struggling to get Olivia Rodrigo tickets right now because she just dropped her new tour, and I'm sure it's going to be exciting. I know I want to go, and I know I can trust Game Time to get me the best seats at the best possible price to see Olivia Rodrigo. So I'm going to trust them with all of my ticketing needs. They get you the best tickets at the best price, killer deals on last minute tickets, flash deals, easy to find these tickets. They give you the little image preview of the seats. And of course, they got the lowest price guaranteed and event cancellation protection, all that good stuff. And with the Game Time guarantee, if you happen to find seats in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% the difference. So go on over to gametime.co or download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code STAYHOT. And you get $20 off your first purchase. So not only do you already get the best price, you get $20 off that. It's really going to be hard to beat that. Terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem the code STAYHOT, get $20 off. Download Game Time today. Get last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. The biggest QB to watch is our next topic here. Who are you guys going to go, young or old? That's the real question.
I think the quarterback that I am most excited to watch in week 2 is... I feel like it's Daniel Jones and the Giants. I feel like after their 0-point performance, everything is really on the line. And they just paid him all this money for him to basically get shit on. And they really couldn't throw their way back into the game. And it's not his fault. Like, he was under pressure all the time. Like, the line performed horribly. But against Arizona, you got this softball week 2. It's a real chance to get back on track if you're the Giants. And I think that Daniel Jones absolutely cannot perform poorly, and the Giants absolutely cannot win this game. To go down, to be 0-2 with a loss to the Cowboys that badly and then a loss to Arizona, I'm eliminating you from playoff contention. So I think that Daniel Jones needs to show some growth from last year. I think I need to see some deep shots down the field, some explosive plays, on top of all the rhythm throws that we saw last year. Like, Arizona is the perfect opportunity to highlight that, although they did do a pretty good job week 1. I'm still not convinced that defense is good. So I think the quarterback that is under the most pressure and therefore the most interesting to watch, or maybe not interesting to watch, but at least under the most pressure is Daniel Jones versus Arizona, as mid as that game looks.
All right. We do have another topic for teams that are under a lot of pressure. Do you also have the Giants picked for that?
Yeah, I'll pick the Giants for both of those superlatives if it's teams under pressure, and maybe I can answer like both of those things. And
yeah, I mean, I have the Giants for that pick too, because for under pressure, just because you're right. If any chance is a week to like get on track, it's this one, and you absolutely need it to. But I don't know, Matt, what quarterback do you think is the biggest to watch?
Probably Ritter, to be completely honest with you. I hate to say it. I'm sorry, fellas, but I could say any of the rookie quarterbacks, lame. Of course, they're interesting to watch. We're still seeing how they are. And I could say any of the older quarterbacks who had a bad game, like Lamar or Allen or Burrow. But guess what? Those guys are all going to be pretty good. An actual unknown is Desmond Ridder. And he looked very bad week 1. And if he's not, that's kind of telling of the whole Falcons season. So can he drop back and legitimately get through the reads and get to his guy and not get so panicky when he gets some pressure on him? If not, then it feels like the Falcons are kind of right back to square one where, they're probably going to win some games off a dope run game, but their quarterback is just so incompetent that they're still winning 7-8 games. Or is Ridder going to be an okay game manager, and are they going to be able to get the ball to the weapons downfield a little bit more, and are things going to start to come together? That's we'll probably know how good Atlanta's going to be, win or lose, after next game. After the next couple, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I could definitely see a world where we just never find this out, though.
I think at least by the end of the year, we'll know almost exactly how good they were and what their record was. So,
but it might be 15 for 18, 15 of 18, average depth of target 0 every single week for Ridder. It would shock me.
If that's the case, then I actually think it does tell us they don't think Ridder has it at all. So that would be. And I'm not asking we knew when this started, it's not going to be a lot from Ridder. The idea is it's as little from Ridder as possible, but can it be enough to get Kyle Pitts and Drake London some targets? Can Drake London catch a pass potentially? You spent this super high pick on him. And if you're running an offense that's just never going to throw to him, because I have to believe that Arthur Smith is not just doing that intentionally. It has to have something to do with the faith in his quarterback. So
no, he's just a decoy.
He's just they didn't spend the 8th overall pick on a decoy. And if they wanted to have a huge guy out there who's kind of a decoy, I mean, you got Mac Hollins already, who is big too. He's not Drake London, but he's big.
They're so awesome.
So
Bijan got less carries than Algier. Pitts and London just do nothing. This is a team that's built entirely through the trenches, but they spend all of their high picks on skilled position players. It's just, I don't know what they're smoking in that room, but I want some. It is, their plan is beyond my comprehension. The way they built this team, they were on DMT that Joe Rogan was there. They were all hotboxing the draft room, and I wish I could have been a part of it, because they're cooking up something diabolically. I don't even know what the adjective is.
This should be the most explosive offense in football, and yet it's just Tyler Algier.
What if we made people think this offense rules and just play like it's?
Dude, I mean, Ridder threw 18 passes. 9 of them were to running backs. 1 of them was to a quarterback. It's just, is that really the offense? Is 5 real passes a game? I mean, that is, I don't know.
How many of those passes? How many of those 5 real passes were completed? That's the real question.
Of their
non-running
back,
non-quarterback targets.
I think they went 5 for 8.
Let's go
for 70 something yards.
Hey, that's
work.
That's over 50%. So
I don't know. That's what I want to watch. Is this really it for Ridder? Is this really what we're doing? We'll see.
I think it is. I think it's going to be.
Oh God.
Well, I choose to hold my head and shake it and say no until it's proven this week against the Packers.
What other superlatives have we got? My computer's about to die.
Your computer's about to. Theo. All right. Well, let me.
All right.
Quickly, my biggest QB to watch is Stafford. He looked fantastic last week against the Seahawks. Although it's the Seahawks defense, but their secondary is supposed to be really good. So he was dicing them up in the secondary, whether it was middle of the field, hole shots on the sideline. Puka Nacua was going crazy. Stafford loves that guy, apparently. But now he's playing the 49ers this week, maybe the best defense in football. Is he going to be able to, replicate those? Middle of the field is almost impossible to access against this team. What is Stafford
that
going
could
to
be
do?
setting up for a real Stafford masterclass, because he looked, the throws he was making would have beaten anybody week one. And
That's
if he
what
could
I'm
go in
saying.
there and replicate that, that'd be a pretty special performance.
His elbows seem to just be not a complete non-problem.
He could be the MVP front runner in a week if he plays well.
If he plays well. Now, I think someone was like, this is the best passing performance we've ever seen with no touchdowns. So
it really could have been.
That's the thing is but no, you're right. If he comes in and lights it up against San Francisco, he might be the MVP front runner.
And I think he should be. I think that if he beats the Niners, there is absolutely no quarterback with a better resume than him through the first 2 weeks, unless maybe Trevor goes crazy. But it's week 2. The MVP race does not really.
Aren't you forgetting somebody?
Yet. Forgetting?
I think you are. I think your hate is blinding you.
Jordan Love?
What if Tua goes off?
Yeah, but he's going to get sacked 5 times and throw 2 pick sixes, and so it's not happening.
My hate was blinding me. But yes, if Tua plays like he did against the Chargers against New England, he'll also be in the MVP conversation in week 2, much like he was last year. That's hate again. Sorry, everybody. But yes, Tua, Trevor, and Stafford are leading the way so far.
This is the vision. This is real NFL football.
Yes, it's a very scary and different world. It's like a weird combination of 2021 and 2022. Crazy.
It is. Well, let's get into our top rookie to watch this week. Doesn't necessarily have to be a quarterback, of course. We've talked a lot about him, so maybe if you have someone else, Theo, who you feel?
I do have someone else. I want to watch Zay Flowers versus Baltimore. I think that Zay gave the Ravens so much juice in that game against the Texans. He looked really, really, really special after the catch. Was running some real routes down the field too and winning. Hit the safety with a rocker step and blew by him. He wasn't targeted. I sent it to our group chat. Yeah. Crossed Stingley's face and caught a pass on the sideline. And then they'd give him some design touches and he would just hit the sickest sequence of moves. You're going in against Cincinnati, huge divisional game, a chance to really to start out 2-0, Cincinnati 0-2. Zay looks like he could be the wide receiver 1 in Baltimore. He certainly was week 1. I think Odell and Bateman could definitely catch up to him, and we'll see if they have Mark Andrews back. So maybe not the biggest target share for Zay Flowers. It's certainly possible that he could just be reduced to more of a gimmicky guy or a gadget guy, but he has a chance to have a real coming out party, not against Houston, and really help Baltimore secure a division win.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers was on my list. I won't lie to you, but I prepared another. Keon White got some real snaps for the Patriots. I wasn't sure if he was going to. He looked really good, incredibly powerful, hitting people with the long arms against a very tough defensive line. Now he goes up against a very spotty Miami line. I'm interested to see how much he gets used, how Belichick deploys him, and how he performs in general. I think we liked him a decent amount coming out of the draft. So, and then, when Belichick drafts him, it feels like a pretty good cosign. So he's somebody on my list who I really want to see.
Yeah. He has a chance to really cement himself as maybe even the top guy on that New England line. And New England's line is a bunch of very good players and no one super great. But man, Keon White, he's so big and his arms are so long and he's so powerful. And Belichick, under Belichick, he's got moves. He put Lane Johnson on his ass, if I remember correctly.
Yes, dude, he showed some real stuff. And if if that's like honestly what he's got in him coming out week 1, dude, he should crush it against this Dolphins line. He should be a beast.
We all saw it in that first preseason game against Houston. Like the backups he looked like prime Reggie White. And so for him to come in week 1 and look like that, like Keanu White could be on like star watch, I would say, under Bill Belichick's tutelage.
100%.
Blaiden, how about you?
Who better to have to coach someone up? I think Jalen Carter versus the Vikings. That is a setup for just a slaughter. He led the league. He leads the league in pressures right now with 8 from week 1. And
they were not play action weird pressures either. He was whooping ass.
And now they're going up against, is it
Ed Ingram?
A long shot to say the worst interior offensive line in football? Like, this could be
beat him over the head with a big bat.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be a complete slaughter. So that's just what I want to see. I've been picking a lot of good matchups. I'm picking a slaughter this time. But next up, we have the biggest bounce back. So, team that underperformed last week should get back on track this week.
Let me say Pittsburgh versus Cleveland.
It's not a bad choice. I have them written down as like an option. It's not a bad choice.
I don't even know why. Just to mess with you.
No, you're not. Like I don't think it's like that far. I don't think the Steelers are nearly as bad as they looked.
I don't know.
Week 1.
They might be. Their line sucks. Deontay Johnson's hurt. Pickett might not be that guy. Cam Hayward got hurt.
Pickett is that
I
guy,
honestly don't know if they'll bounce back, but
it's not the worst choice. I wouldn't pick them, but it's not the worst. It's not the worst choice you could make.
Let me go with someone else because I honestly don't really rate Pittsburgh that highly after that week 1 performance. Let me say Buffalo versus Las Vegas. How about that?
I would hope so.
I'd hope so.
I'll go
the Ravens
Chargers versus Tennessee.
That's also a good bet.
Yeah, I'd hope so too. When I was thinking bounce back, I was thinking like, I don't know. I was thinking more along the lines of Pittsburgh against Cleveland, but I didn't go that route. I went Cincinnati against Baltimore.
That's a good pick.
You get a better weather game first of all, and then
Joe Burrow got a haircut.
That'll do it. That'll get him back on track. No, I think just like number 1 being in the better weather, Joe Burrow is actually going to be able to throw reasonably, and he's hopefully not going to have like basically instantaneous like catch release type throws because he's not going up against Jim Schwartz and like the most ridiculous defensive line in maybe in the NFL, right? Like one of the most ridiculous defensive lines in football. So it should be a more manageable game for Cincinnati. And we should, not only Joe Burrow, but also we should see like the odds that T. Higgins has 0 catches and Jamar Chase has, what do you have, 2 catches? Like the odds that happens 2 weeks in a row is like basically 0.
I think that's a good pick, and they could answer in a major way because, like, unlike the Bills and unlike the Chargers playing Tennessee, like that would be a game if they won. It would really, really mean something because they're not. Well, they are expected to win, I'd say, but they're not. It's not a given. It's not that they're heavy favorites.
It's a division rival. It's a tough game.
Even if they won ugly, even if they won by 1 point, even if it went to overtime and they won on the last second, like people would say the Bengals are back. So they just need to win this game, and everything will be all good. It doesn't matter how they do it.
All good.
Whereas if the Chargers won ugly in Tennessee, no one would be moved.
Right. That would you have to like really put Tennessee away.
To really kill them.
Same with the Bills and the Raiders. Like there is no reason you should not walk all over them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. And you guys already gave your biggest bounce back. So that brings us to the teams under the most pressure. Theo and I already said the Giants. But unless if you have another one, Theo, a team that's under a lot of pressure this week.
I don't have another one. Have we done upsets yet? That's really the last one I want to talk about.
All right.
The biggest upset pick of the week is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Are you upset because you can't draft a fantasy team anymore? Well, look no farther than Underdog Fantasy. They've got year-round drafts. They got a bunch of different pools with a bunch of different buy-ins and a bunch of different prize pools. And they've got a bunch of different sports and a bunch of different game modes that you can play and a bunch of different news headlines to read. Like, there's just a lot of stuff on Underdog Fantasy, and they're giving away $2 million worth of prizes. I saw a tweet from them that said they were giving away like thousands and thousands every single week. So there's a lot of opportunities to win money. You can do a pick'em, you can do a pool. Like I already mentioned, you can use the code Stay Hot, and they will double your first deposit up to $100. So if you want to throw $100 in there, you'll have $200 in your account, and you can use that to win even more money. So the upset pick of the week is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. What underdog do you think will be victorious, Blaiden?
I think Jacksonville, 3.5 point underdogs against Kansas City, is not a bad bet. But, and I only say that one because I know Matt and when I talked about the Patriots Dolphins, the Patriots are also underdogs. So those are the two that I feel the most confident in right now. We already know Jacksonville. Theo, you've already talked about how good Trevor looked last week, how good Calvin Ridley looked last week. And then, with the Patriots, we already talked, like, their defense is lights out. There's a very real possibility they could shut down this Dolphins offense. And if the Patriots offense can just hum a little bit steady, they can probably score enough points to where they could win that game. They were right there with Philadelphia last week. So those are two games that they could definitely win.
I'm going to go with Washington over Denver. I think Washington's a 3.5 point favorite, or underdog, I should say. Russ, he looked better week one, but the overall offense wasn't able to do much against a Raiders defense that looked on paper to be pretty rough. Mike McGlinchey got beat pretty badly by Max Crosby, that he's not really getting any kind of relief. No one on that offensive line is against a team like Washington. It's an offense that has not for over a year now been able to put up 20 on anybody. So for them to go into Washington, or Washington to come to Denver, and for Washington to allow over 20 points, that is not any kind of gimme. And Sam Howell did not look great against Arizona. They did not put up a ton of points either, but it's going to be low scoring. And if you can hold any offense below 14, 15, 16, which I think is possible for Washington, you've got a shot to win the game. They just need a couple big plays. Sam Howell is capable of creating those plays. He throws a nice go ball. He'll have to hit a couple of those, but if they can just get a few more explosives than Denver, I think they've got a real shot to win. So I'll go with Washington as my upset pick, because I know for sure that there's not going to be a bunch of points on the board either way. And if we know that's true, we know it's going to be close, and anything could happen from there.
Hey, yeah. Then Matt.
My pick is still New England over Miami. Just to recap, I think they're going to do a better job against Hill and Waddle, or at least as good as they can. They're going to get a lot of pressure. I think the Dolphins are still going to struggle to run. And then I think offensively, they showed that even against a defense with some talent, they can still get things done. Biggest thing they struggled with is they had, I feel like, a solid number of runs that just didn't plan out the way that they wanted them to. The Patriots did, but I don't think that the Dolphins' defensive front is as good as the Eagles with Carter in there and all that. So I think there's a good chance that they could pull off that upset. And they're only 2.5 point dogs, so I like New England a decent amount.
Yeah, and Ramondre Stevenson was sick last week, and he played, but
Hardly.
fully
It
healthy.
was a lot of Zeke.
Yeah. So
I believe Zeke had more carries.
Get him fully healthy, get him back in the mix. You should see a more effective rushing attack there as well. So, yeah, I think New England is a very, very good underdog bet. But that brings us to the weekly Stay Hot Locks. And just to recap, last week, Theo did not have a great
Even though
weekend.
I picked the Rams to win when we went through all the matchups, I forgot and then locked Seattle.
It was very funny, and then you locked the Chargers.
Yes. So
but that was more of a faith pick,
a faith in my own evaluation.
Yeah, and I feel like I can't hate on you for that, Well, but based on last week, our draft order, I think, is Theo, or who gets to pick. Is it I get to pick because I won, or is it you get
I believe
to pick
you do.
because...
You get to pick your spot because you won the last week, so you get to pick where you pick.
I get to pick where I pick.
You pick the draft order.
I pick the draft order. Yeah, I think I will just take the first pick here.
Okay.
Because there's one that I feel pretty confident in, and that is Philly over Minnesota. So
okay. Then does it?
Yeah, we'll go then. Yeah, it's then Matt, then Theo, and Theo get the turn.
Just scrolling through it real quick. I will take the Bills over the Raiders.
And then I will take the Cowboys over the Jets if they're serious about this Zach Wilson situation. I think Dallas is going to cause some problems. And then I get the turn, and I will take the 49ers over the Rams, not the other way around. Stafford could cement himself as the MVP, throwing to Puka Nacua against this ferocious defense, but I don't think that that's going to happen. I'll take San Francisco. They looked like the best team in the league week 1. I'd say pretty easily they looked like the best team in the league. And the Rams, I'm not convinced, are actually that good. So we'll go with San Francisco.
Fair enough. And then Matt comes back to you.
I'll go Chargers over Tennessee. I will. I think they get it done. It's a little bit risky, but I think I want to pick 2, so I'll go with them. I guess I'm worried about the run defense, but I think overall the Titans' offensive line is still really bad. So even with Derrick Henry in there.
Okay. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been trying to schedule out the tweet for the Stay On Logs, and I did not really pay attention to what you guys picked.
We picked the Chargers, the 49ers, and the Cowboys.
The Chargers, 49ers, and Cowboys?
And the Bills.
And the Bills. Okay, that's what I was going to say. Did no one pick the Bills? Then in that case, you know what? I should trust in my boys, shouldn't I? I'll take the Browns on Monday night.
Fair enough.
And then,
Matt, anyone else?
I'm done.
No, I'm good.
I'm going to take 2 more teams.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to take Detroit over Seattle. I think that Detroit just matches up really well. They're pretty big favorites, too, so this is not necessarily a hot take. And I'm also going to take the Buccaneers over the Bears because I think the Bears are terrible, and I think that locking them every week is going to be fruitful. I think that they looked like the worst team in the league week 1, and the Buccaneers aren't great, but they did look competent. So I'm going with the Buccaneers and the Lions, too. And I'm going to try to make it all back. Keep gambling.
Just to recap, Theo, what 4 teams do you have locked?
I've got the Lions locked. I've got the Buccaneers locked. I've got the 49ers locked. I've got the Cowboys locked. And I'm also going to lock the Giants. That's 5. Let's roll.
Oh, my God.
Giants over Cardinals. Let's roll.
Interesting.
This is a mastermind. This is either going to look great or terrible.
It's going to look awesome.
Only one has to fail to not go your way. But is that it?
That's it. That's all I'm going to do.
I think so.
All right. You sure? Last call, Theo.
I'm good. I've had more than my fill.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. It's been an absolutely fabulous episode. All of our picks are going to come true as they always do. And until next time, we will catch you on the Flippity Flop.